So I'm Tassin Yasmin. I work at King's College London, which is part of the Circle U University cohort, in the sustainability team as a sustainable projects assistant. And the kind of main projects I'm working on is sustainable education. So the main project I led on, as you mentioned, was sustainable education mapping, which I did across the year, and I work in other kind of sustainable education elements across our team and the university. So, like I mentioned, I did geography for my undergrad, so I've always been into kind of geography, sustainability. I did mine on the kind of physical sciences side of geography, so it was BSc. So mainly to do, we did a lot of kind of climate change related bits and bobs. So I didn't really think about sustainable education pre this job really, because it's something that I just did naturally anyway, something that I was learning about. And then when I was kind of moving on to here, I was talking to my team members about what sustainable education looked like more generally, and it made me understand that not everyone has kind of well-rounded approach to understanding things. It's very kind of siloed. So sustainable education looks at like a bunch of different things. It looks at economics of the thing that we have within the team is our three pillars. So economic sustainability, social sustainability, and environmental sustainability. So it's not just about kind of green education, but it's looking at how you can look at all three. And then kind of with my mapping project, it made me understand more about it's not just what you're learning, but the way that you're learning. So it's not you just learning about what kind of circle economy is. Are you learning it in a way where you can kind of embed it into a future job, into your careers? Are you learning it in a way that makes you kind of truly understand it in a worldwide perspective? Because we're obviously a university in a Western world, it's a really good university, but what tends to happen is you look at things from really like European Eurocentric perspective, and that's not a very sustainable education outlook on things. So how are you learning about it in kind of a global perspective, which is another thing that King's is really keen on, looking at internationalization and kind of just broadening how you understand how we learn and what we learn. So it's how we learn, yeah, it's how we learn, it's what we learn, it's the way that we learn. And it's kind of holistic, it's understanding that things are a circle, I guess, and you need to look at things from all different perspectives in a critical way. Well, we're in a climate crisis, like people are dying. There's in Pakistan right now, a third of the country is underwater, and that's because we're just not being sustainable enough. We're not really thinking long term. Again, it's very Eurocentric. We're looking at things in a really Western perspective. So, education for sustainable development is something that everyone needs to learn because it affects everyone. Everyone needs to kind of play their part in curbing this kind of the inequalities that are happening, because this is obviously like a massive inequality. The stats, Pakistan contributes less than 1% to global emissions, but I think 1 in 7 people have been affected by the current floods, and when they weren't affected by the floods, they were affected by the droughts. It's kind of a crazy statistic, and it's another thing about this kind of learning. Education for sustainable development is also just understanding that this is happening. Kind of media and kind of global organizations aren't really talking about it because it's not affecting kind of the bigger countries or countries you're interested in. So how are we kind of contributing, or how are we all working together to curb something like this happening? Globalization is a massive part. Like it's kind of exploded in the last like 20, 30 years, especially with stuff like social media. So you have kind of more access to what's happening around you and understanding what's happening around you. So the project that I was working on was the sustainable development or sustainable education mapping. So what we did was we worked with SOS UK, which is the sustainability branch of the National Union of Students. So the National Union of Students represents students across the UK, so England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. So it's kind of the biggest students' union across the UK. And they had a project where it's looking at understanding where sustainable education sits within curriculum. So I worked with about 60 students and mapped about 1,000 modules across the curriculum at King's to see exactly where sustainable education sat, because we didn't really have a baseline to understand where we needed to start or what we needed to do to kind of better the sustainable education within King's, because it's not something that wasn't happening, it is something that's happening, but it sits so siloed across the college because we've got 40,000 students, we've got like 12,000 members of staff, there's just always a lot happening. So people didn't really understand what was happening across the college, and it was a really good way of sharing best practice as well, and really understanding how different faculties and departments embed sustainable education within their curriculums and learnings.
We have been working on internationalization of education, how to overpass the frontiers, the limits. Today, it was the very day of the Think and Do Tank, where the students, they have revealed all the studies that they have undertaken on sustainable education.
Sustainable education or education for sustainability are complex concepts that Circle students sought to better understand in their research project through the support of the academic chairs of the Think and Do Tank, a think tank within the Alliance.